we have a special guest joining us tonight. We are going to be moving over to League One and the championship. This is someone who's been on our show before. You recently saw him with our League One preview. It turns out almost all the things that he said in those previews have come true. It turns out the Irishman just made no ball. You know him as a Jaeger Cup Meister champion. We know him as a good friend. Eamon Zayed, how are you?
I'm good, guys. Not sure about your words about the predictions. I've already had a couple of people reach out to me about some of those predictions. Listen, some of them are right, some of them are wrong, but that's the beauty of the game. I mean, especially with so many new teams coming into USL League One and USL Championship. It was great to see how those teams started and then how some of the teams have adapted to the league and overcome some of the challenges. And then some of them have gone the other way. But it's been really exciting and interesting first 10 to 12 games so far in USL League One, and then obviously the championship. There's a lot to talk about as well.
Well, let's talk about some of those challenges because we've seen a lot of teams be really proactive this year. Birmingham got the sackings going. Then Tampa Bay follows suit. Oakland Roots fired, then hired all in the same day. And now today, Nocerino announced to be out with Las Vegas. Can't say we're entirely surprised when we see the results and see the step back that they had taken from last year with largely the same core coming back. Eamon, obviously, Nocerino has a very different style than Sanchez did last year. Very different setups. Why did it go wrong in Las Vegas?
Look, for me, there's a couple of reasons. I'll say this, if I can just kind of go back a little bit. Like I always, American soccer is different. It's, you got it. For me, the most successful coaches usually have had some kind of stint in the league or in the States before they stepped into a coaching position. I'm actually quite sure. Look, there's obviously coaches that have come over and done well as a first-time coach, but not many do. The culture is different. The style of play is different. So I think he obviously was with Miami last year, and that didn't go well at all. You would like to have thought second chance going to Vegas, working under another Italian sporting director. You learn from last year. And to be honest, I felt at the start of the season, it looked like they did all right. It looked like he had obviously adapted and learned a little bit, in terms of what the USL Championship and what is needed and what's required. But look, of late, over the last couple of months now, they were okay in April, but definitely from the turn of May, they've been awful. I mean, you look at the stats. I think they started off with a couple of clean sheets, maybe 5-6 clean sheets in their first number of games. And since then, they're conceding goals for fun. I was looking at some of their stats earlier. I know they've lost the last 5 out of 5. They've also conceded 15 in the last 5 games. That's obviously awful. I think they've conceded 18 altogether. And that's despite having 6 clean sheets in 12 games. So those 18 goals obviously came in 6 games, which isn't great. And then you add in the fact that they're not scoring goals. If my stat, and John, you'll tell me this or not, I don't, bar like maybe a cup game, I don't think they've scored an away goal in the league. I think they've had mostly home games.
So that was zero away goals this season. Yeah.
Yeah, so look, the stats are there. You obviously delve into it and you wonder why. So look, they're for the most part they're dominating possession. I can look at the Sacramento game recently, which they lost 4-0. They dominated possession. I think they had 60%, roughly 60% to Sacramento's 40% possession. But the build-up play, and again, I don't know Nocerino at all. How he, his ideas in the game. Obviously, when you watch Italian football, growing up watching Italian football, that was the biggest league in the world when I was growing up initially, Serie A, and it's a slow-paced game, slow-paced build-up. And if you look at Las Vegas, and for me, when I looked at them and watched them play this year, and I've watched them multiple times, very slow-paced in terms of how they play it out. Obviously, that's what they wanted. They mixed the match, whether it was a back three that turned into a back five. Usually, when you play back threes, it's interesting enough if you look at the stats. Usually, when a team plays a back three, they usually do dominate possession, especially when they go up against maybe a team that plays a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. They usually do dominate possession, but it's usually possession in their own half. They're not really doing much with the ball. They're just moving it from side to side, and that's, for me, that's how it looked when I watched Vegas. They're very predictable with their play. They didn't really have. They do have some good players, some really good players. Some of them are doing okay. Valentin Noel was exceptional last year. He's doing okay this year. I wouldn't say he's doing poorly, just maybe not like as he was last year. They're definitely missing a striker. Obviously losing Corey Bennett. I think they sold him, which is, I guess, fantastic for the club, but I don't think they replaced him at all. Johnny Rodriguez came in, and look, Johnny Rodriguez has scored. I think they've scored 7 goals this year. Johnny Rodriguez has scored 3 of them. So if he's not scoring, well, who else is going to score? Yeah. But 7 goals in 12 games is, that's awful. It's really, really poor. And you consider, I guess, the top goal scorers, if you look at it, are Charleston with 26. That's almost 4 times the number of goals that Vegas have scored. So slow, predictable. I would imagine if I was playing against them, it wouldn't be too hard to kind of analyze them and come up with a game plan. I'm not surprised with the decision at all. I will say this: they were really, really good last year under Dennis Sanchez, and whoever went in initially, it was going to be tough because expectations have gone from Vegas were there before Dennis Sanchez. Now they're like that, and fans now expect that and they want that, and they weren't happy with what they've seen. So again, I'm not surprised. The stats tell a picture, and then you look at them, and to be honest, the stats back up what you're watching. So again, I'm not surprised. That's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Phil.
Oh, I was gonna make a flippant comment about the fact that Nocerino didn't favor Coleman Gannon, and I don't know about correlation versus causation, but he hasn't been in the side, and suddenly they're terrible. I do think there's something in here though about the particularly the way that Nocerino structured the team, and I think we saw this in Miami where yes, he was asked to do like a lot with precious little, but he did probably less than what even like he could have done with the side that he was given. And I think it's the same with Vegas, where he's somehow like structured this side in a way that is now less than the sum of its parts, unfortunately. And he's going to bear the brunt for, there was proof of concept last year from Dennis Sanchez. And so it's quite easy to say like the variable that changed is you, boss. And so, yeah, unfortunately he finds himself out. I thought the hire was a bit strange from the beginning because, typically when you see someone hired in for someone who's been, we could say, I guess, poached, by New Mexico in this case, you would want someone who is on the back of like a really impressive season in the league. And Nocerino is off the back of probably one of the worst seasons in the championship's history. And I get it. Like, the tools that he had were maybe not at his disposal, but it just struck me as strange from the beginning. And to see it end 12 games in, I think it's unfortunate for Lights, who organizationally are being taken more seriously now than they were, a couple of years ago. So, chance to hit the reset button now, but yeah, it's gone, I think, worse than anyone probably could have foreseen. But for me, it was just always a bit of an odd appointment.
Yeah, and I kind of look at Noel as a player that's really like a taking the temperature of how this team has changed. Last season, he almost played as a false nine a lot of the time, really linking play in the final third. He feels so much less engaged in those dangerous areas. I think his touches are down 10, 15%. He's creating a third as many chances this season. That speaks to the fact that Nocerino never really landed on a structure, a system, a way he wanted this team to play, which was really the problem for him in Miami as well. And I'm sure as he gets more experience, there's going to be a job for him that works out at some point, but not the best decision for the Lights to bring him in at the beginning of this process. I will say, I think we should commend Las Vegas for moving on when they did. This team's 1 point out of a playoff spot. They've got 6 points in the Jägermeister Cup. There's a lot of 2025 left to go, and they're in a really good position if they get the right coach in to make some moves and really play on and do something this year.
Yeah, I will say this. Sorry, Kaylor, I know you're going to jump in there. My apologies. No, I will say this because just going on to the Valentin Noel comments. For me, look, it's the coach's job to get the best out of their players. You know, I think they do have a good core squad there. I do think they have good players. Maybe for me, missing an attacking player that can score goals, but for me, they do have the bones of definitely a playoff squad, 100%. I think the most worrying thing about for me was I watched that game against Sacramento the other night where they lost 3-0, and it was strange. Some of the players look like, and players hate to hear this, and they'll always say that's not the case, but there was moments there where a couple of players, they just looked like they gave up. You know, I mean, there was a strange, I don't know if it was a second goal or if it was the third goal. It was just strange. There was a defender that was close by that could have stepped over and listen, maybe he blocked it, maybe he doesn't, but he kind of just stands still. And there's other moments where I was looking where players had lost the ball. And for me as a coach, you're thinking, right, track back, right, initial reaction. You know, you don't just lose the ball and stand still. You got to try and get back and try and make amends, at least recover back into position and transition back. And they didn't. And again, I don't know if that's, for me, that's the coach's job to obviously motivate and inspire the players and get them playing at their level or above and beyond. And I just don't think that was happening. And for me, that game against San Antonio, that was clear. I was watching that and I was thinking, gee, what's going on here? The players just look like they're just almost waiting for something to happen, i.e., the coach got sacked a few days later, you know.
And I'm going to just kind of ask the question, and maybe this is a bunch of nothing and I'm just reading too far into it, but how much of this also, Phil, you mentioned Miami, right? Look at the turnaround that Miami had in 1 year from moving on from him. And they have some of the same parts. There's a lot of change. They traded, the Italians for Argentinians, but, it's still a young squad of a lot of unproven talent, similar to what he had, different nationality, but still same kind of build. And they are arguably one of the best teams in the East right now, definitely one of the most dangerous. Meanwhile, you see what Las Vegas. Is there any kind of truth of seeing his previous project thrive after he's gone as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's what Phil said of Nocerino now has gone into clubs twice and had them perform below the level that their roster is able to perform. That's a consistent trend. And I think if you're a Las Vegas supporter, that means whoever comes into this job really should be able to push this team up the table quickly, because the framework is there for this to like Eamon said, be a playoff team that can really compete.
And the reality in the West is that it's like so compressed right now that it's still completely up for grabs. Like, I mean, there's like Vegas from where they're at could still like top the West. That's like how tight it is. It's just like that ridiculous right now.
Can I have a little bit of fun and just read to you the players who started against Rhode Island last year from Miami, that when they lost 8-1? Can I just have fun real fast? Let's start with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's your show.
Not really. Felipe Rodriguez in goal. Alejandro Mitrano.
He played over the weekend.
Yes. Daniel Barbier, never know how to pronounce that one. And at center back, Dalton Knutson.
He has been great this season.
He has been great.
Yeah.
Muji Marana at right back. Let's see, Remy Cabral, Gabriel Cabral, over on the left mid.
Not Remy Cabral. That would be
not
crazy.
Remy. Sorry, Gabriel Cabral.
Yeah.
Sorry, very different person. Brian Sosa, central mid. Joseph Desart on right mid. Roberto Molina at left wing. Michael Lawrence up top, and Alan Galvanez on right wing. There's a lot of talent that stayed in the league and with this team that performed a lot better than 8-1 from last year.
Yeah, that's listen, again, for me, that's just, again, and I hate saying it, players, but that's players not buying into what the coach is trying to do. I mean, you gotta, you have to get the players buying into what you want to do, what you're trying to do. And that comes from you, the coach, being the leader, inspiring them, motivating them, yeah, that's not great, because you're right. There's some players there that they're good players, and then you look at some of them. Nutson's a great example. Look at him last year. Look at him this year. He looks like he's a completely different player, but he's the exact same player. So what's happened? It's just a mentality. And again, for me, that has to stem from the coach. It has